In the violent underworld, two names, Jamaican Shower Posse and Spanglers, have etched themselves into the history of crime as symbols of power and brutality. Emerging from the impoverished streets of Kingston, Jamaica, they fought not just to survive but to build their own empires. Expanding their influence from local territories to an international stage, Shower Posse, driven by ambitions that extended beyond Jamaica, expanded their reach to the US and Canada, bringing wealth and global infamy. Meanwhile, the Spanglers solidified their position as local kings, controlling Kingston with a combination of tight community ties and clever strategies. But what led to the formation of these two gangs? Why did they become such bitter rivals? This story isn't just about violence and power. It also reflects a deeply divided society plagued by poverty and injustice. 1. Objectives and scope of operations. Shower Posse emerged in the 1980s amidst Jamaica's turbulent political conflicts. Many founding members of the gang were once part of armed groups supporting politicians who relied on violence to seize power. When political funding dried up after elections, these groups turned to drug trafficking as their main source of income. On the other hand, Spanglers arose from the need to protect their own community. Established in downtown Kingston, the Spanglers focused on local control rather than international operations. They built a support network for the local population, providing financial aid to poor families and creating order in areas where police presence was nearly non-existent. The relationship between Shower Posse and Jamaican politics was pivotal. Members of the gang maintained covert ties with various politicians, enabling them to operate an international criminal network with minimal interference. In contrast, the Spanglers relied on the loyalty of their community, where locals saw them as an integral part of Kingston's life. 2. Recruitment motivations and social context. Why would a young person choose to join a gang? The answer often lies in social circumstances. In the slums of Kingston, where poverty and injustice are rampant, gangs like Shower Posse and Spanglers represent not just violence but a rare escape from hardship. For Shower Posse, the allure of wealth and power on a global scale was a strong draw. Poor, unemployed, and undereducated youth were captivated by the prospect of earning millions through drug trafficking. Meanwhile, Spanglers offered a different, social contract. Joining meant becoming part of a strong community where one was protected and valued. Additionally, societal and familial pressures played a role. Many young people grew up in families with gang affiliations, making participation almost inevitable. Others were drawn by underground tales of heroism, where power and loyalty were glorified. 3. Organizational structure and operational strategies. Shower Posse operated as a tightly knit international network. Gang leaders wielded power through regional commanders spanning Jamaica, the US, and Canada. Each branch operated semi-independently while adhering to central directives. Drug trafficking, especially cocaine and marijuana, was their primary source of income. Funding weapon purchases, bribery, and network expansion, their strategy relied on ruthlessness. The shower of bullets approach, eliminating all enemies, including their families and allies, made the gang synonymous with terror. Massacres in Miami and New York during the 1980s stand as grim testaments to this method. Conversely, Spanglers focused on safeguarding their territory rather than scaling operations. Their less hierarchical structure depended on personal loyalty and local relationships. The Spanglers' activities included marijuana trade and control of Ban Da Noi, Chu Wai Chin Ta Va Tu Nong, Chad GPT Da Noi, Chad GPT. In the violent underworld, two names, Jamaican Shower Posse and Spanglers, have become synonymous with power and brutality. Emerging from the impoverished streets of Kingston, Jamaica, these gangs didn't just fight for survival but built criminal empires, expanding from local dominance to international infamy. The Shower Posse, with ambitions that extended far beyond Jamaica, expanded their operations to the US and Canada, amassing wealth but also posing a global threat. Meanwhile, the Spanglers remained the kings of Kingston, maintaining control through strong community ties and calculated strategies. But what led to the rise of these two notorious gangs? Why did they become bitter enemies? This story delves not just into violence and power but also into a fractured society, deeply scarred by poverty and injustice. 1. Goals and scope of operations. The Shower Posse was born in the 1980s. During Jamaica's turbulent political conflicts, many of its founding members were linked to armed groups that supported politicians willing to use violence to secure power. After elections ended and financial support dwindled, these groups turned to drug trafficking as their primary income source. In contrast, the Spanglers emerged as protectors of their community. Based in downtown Kingston, their focus was local rather than international. They established a network to support the local population, offering financial aid to struggling families and enforcing order in areas abandoned by law enforcement. Shower Posse's covert ties with Jamaican politicians enabled them to operate an international criminal network with minimal interference. On the other hand, the Spanglers relied on unwavering community loyalty, where they were seen as an indispensable part of life in Kingston. 2. Recruitment drivers and social context. Why do young people join gangs? The answer often lies in their environment. In Kingston's slums, where poverty and injustice are pervasive, gangs like Shower Posse and Spanglers offer not just violence but an escape, or so it seems. The Shower Posse promised wealth and international power. Young men with no jobs or education were drawn by the allure of millions made through drug trafficking. Spanglers, however, offered a different kind of deal, becoming part of a strong, protective community that valued their presence and provided security. Family ties and societal pressures also played a role. Many recruits grew up in households with gang affiliations, where joining was seen as inevitable. Others were seduced by tales of underworld, heroes, and the appeal of loyalty, power, and recognition. 3. Organizational structure and strategies. The Shower Posse operated like a tightly controlled international network. Gang leaders maintained power through regional commanders spread across Jamaica, the US, and Canada. Each faction operated semi-independently but followed orders from the central leadership. Their main source of income came from drug trafficking, primarily cocaine and marijuana. Profits funded weapons purchases, bribery of officials, and further expansion. Their strategy was built on fear. The infamous bloodbath tactic, eliminating enemies along with their families and allies, cemented the Shower Posse's reputation as a global terror. Massacres in cities like Miami and New York during the 1980s are stark reminders of their brutality. In contrast, the Spanglers prioritized territorial control over expansion. Their decentralized structure relied on personal loyalty and strong local ties. Key activities included marijuana trafficking and managing the underground economy in Kingston. Though less structured than the Shower Posse, the Spanglers maintained their power by leveraging deep knowledge of their territories and using the community as both shield and asset. They provided jobs and financial aid to locals in exchange for intelligence and unwavering loyalty. 4. Levels of violence and infamous legacies. Both Jamaican Shower Posse and Spanglers gained notoriety for their violence, but their methods and legacies differ, showcasing distinct approaches to power. Shower Posse, the apex of violence. The Shower Posse's infamy transcended Jamaica, spreading fear in major US and Canadian cities. Their bloodbath tactic, eradicating entire families, including women and children, terrified even rival gangs. A chilling example is the New York Massacre, where a family was slaughtered for refusing to join the gang's drug network. In Miami, one of the Shower Posse's largest hubs outside Jamaica, impoverished neighborhoods turned into battlegrounds. Residents lived in constant fear, avoiding the streets after dark, while even the police hesitated to intervene. Their presence escalated crime rates in Jamaican American communities, leading to increased stigmatization of innocent migrants. The gang's public violence extended beyond rival eliminations. Open gunfights, attacks on dissenters, and intimidation campaigns created an environment of perpetual instability. The Shower Posse used media coverage of their attacks to project dominance, sending a clear message: obey or face annihilation. However, this brutality also brought law enforcement scrutiny. FBI, DEA, and Jamaican police crackdowns in the 1980s and 1990s severely weakened the gang, exposing links between crime and politics and sparking major scandals in Jamaica. Spanglers, quiet but ruthless. Unlike the Shower Posse, The Spanglers stayed within Jamaica but were infamous for their bloody turf wars in Kingston. Their violence was more targeted, aimed at specific threats to their power. Downtown Kingston, particularly Tivoli Gardens and Spanish Town, became the epicenter of clashes between the Spanglers and rival gangs. Locals often woke to bodies strewn on streets after violent confrontations. In areas under Spanglers' control, fear ruled. Few dared to oppose them openly. A unique aspect of the Spanglers' strategy was their integration with the community. Locals were often coerced into aiding the gang, providing intelligence or concealing activities. This symbiosis made it harder for law enforcement to dismantle the group. The Spanglers also enforced strict laws within their territories. Violators faced severe punishment, including public executions. A chilling incident involved the public killing of a local suspected of collaborating with police, a stark warning that the Spanglers were the ultimate authority in their domain. 5. Endings and lessons learned. The Shower Posse began to crumble under relentless international pressure. High-profile arrests and coordinated raids by the FBI and Jamaican police dismantled their leadership, leading to the gang's eventual decline. Meanwhile, the Spanglers, though not entirely eradicated, lost influence as their founding generation either fell victim to violence or retired from the scene. The stories of these two gangs highlight the harsh realities of the criminal underworld and provide lessons on how societal neglect fuels cycles of violence. Could gangs like Shower Posse and Spanglers rise again in today's surveillance-heavy world? More importantly, how can opportunities be created for vulnerable youths to prevent them from being drawn into such a path? Both gangs serve as stark reminders of the devastating costs of power built on fear and destruction. Their manipulation of communities and relentless expansion left indelible marks on Jamaican society and the broader world. What are your thoughts on the stories of the Shower Posse and Spanglers? If you lived in Kingston during that era, how would you have survived? Can modern society prevent the rise of similar gangs? In the next video, we'll delve into another epic rivalry between America's infamous Bloods and Crips, an enduring conflict that reveals much about social divides and how gangs become cultural icons. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to follow more underworld stories. Share your opinions in the comments, and let us know which topics you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next video.